edition, which was Scripps Howard Syndicate before I got to the New York Times. And sometimes we would have an athlete who was prominent write a column once a week. And Fran did that once a week for us when he got to the Giants. And it was always insightful, always great. Also, Tom Seaver in 1970 wrote the column. And by writing it, I mean, I would call them. I would write it, but I would call them and we would talk. So it was their information, and put as well as I could into their words, but in kind of a newspaper form. And so one time, Seaver called me. And he said, Ira, he said, I'm such a fan of Henry Aaron. He said, I like to write, and Seaver was, at USC, was a journalism major. He said, but he hadn't done any journalism in a while. And he said, I'd like to write the column myself on Henry Aaron. And so I said, I'm not going to dissuade you from this because now I don't have to do the work. So I'm happy for you to do it. So the deadline's about 4 o'clock. So now I talked to him early in the morning. So now it's 2 o'clock and I haven't heard from him. Now it's 2:30, I hadn't heard from him. Now it's 3 o'clock. I decide maybe I should give him a call. So I call him. And he said, Ira, I just got home. I took a legal pad to the library to sit and write in longhand a column. He said, I got halfway through the page and I didn't have anything more to say. So I said, Tom, let's talk. So we did, and of course, the column came out. But I would say that that was the difference between, you know, a professional writer and, I have to say, an amateur writer, which would have been the same if I tried to pitch for the Mets. There's the amateur pitcher and the professional pitcher. So
it's not this year, though.
No.
Just out of interest, have you, since he's gone on to California after his playing days, have you been in touch with him at all?
No, last week I sent him the book. I would see him, oh, well, yes, I would see him at the induction ceremonies at Cooperstown, which I like to go to. And my wife Dolly was sitting over there, liked to go to. And it seemed nobody else at the paper was interested in going, and we had a great time. And so anyway, we spent time with these people, and I would see Tom, and I was friendly with Tom and Nancy, and we would talk, and he's a wine, he owns a vineyard, and he produces his own wines. But before that, he was living in Greenwich, Connecticut, and he was a gardener. He liked gardening, so he would trap us among the plaques in Cooperstown in the Hall of Fame, and he started telling us about how to garden and I don't know, raising tulips or something. I don't remember, but that was.
Well, actually, I've never seen an interview with Tom Seaver, which will take us to another time frame in Mets history. I've never seen an interview with Tom Seaver where he has not broken down speaking about Gil Hodges. And just any stories that either come to mind about Gil Hodges, Art Shamsky, the '69 Mets, any of that time frame.
I covered the '69 Mets, traveled with them, especially near the end of the season, which I depict in columns in the book. And Hodges was just kind of a big, classy guy. And just being in his presence, there was a leadership aura to him. And they loved him. And Shamsky loved them. They all did. I had lunch with Shamsky, who I after the first game of the '69 World Series. Shamsky came up with men on base with as a pinch hitter with 2 outs in the 9th inning. The situation, I think there were maybe 2 men on, they were maybe down by 2 runs, something like that. And he was sent in as a pinch hitter. And he hit the ball hard, but he hit it at the second baseman. 3rd out, and then afterward, he was I saw him in the and I did a column on him because I went to his locker after the game, and he said, I failed. He said, I had a chance to really do something special in front of my family, in front of the whole nation, and I failed. I said, your job was to hit the ball hard, and you did. And looking back now, he wished he had a seeing eye ball, you know, but he didn't. But he told me a story, and now it's about a different manager, but a manager along the lines of Gil Hodges. And when Shamsky was a rookie with the Cincinnati Reds in 1965, and I'd not known this story before. Fred Hutchinson was the manager of the Cincinnati Reds, and Shamsky was a teammate of Frank Robinson, the great Hall of Fame Frank Robinson. And Frank Robinson, Shamsky was calling Mr. Robinson because he was in awe of Robinson. And earlier in the game, Robinson gets hit with a pitch, and apparently his left arm gets ballooned up a little bit. But he's still staying in the game, but it seems obvious that he can't get around a little bit. But now, like the 7th inning, he goes up into the on-deck circle, and he was really a tough character and a tough guy and a great player and Hall of Fame player. And he's on the on-deck circle, and Fred Hutchinson says to Shamsky, pinch hit for Frank Robinson. And Robinson probably in his whole life had never been hit. He's on the on-deck circle, and Shamsky comes out, and excuse this one profanity, but we're doing it in real time here. And Shamsky goes out, and Robinson on the on-deck circle, and Robinson says, what are you doing here? And Shamsky said, well, the manager said I have to pitch it for you. Get the fuck back to the dugout. So he goes back to the dugout. Hutchinson says, what are you doing here? He said, Mr. Robinson told me to come back to the dugout. Get back there and tell him you're pinch hitting. Goes back there, he says, you're back again. I told you to get the fuck out of here. So he told me, and so Robinson looks at Hutchinson, and Hutchinson goes, your arm is bad. So Robinson says, okay. So before leaving the on-deck circle, he says to Shamsky, don't embarrass me. Shamsky's quaking, you know. He's a rookie and he's in a situation. He said he comes up to bat, the first pitch, he hits over the center field fence. He rounds the bases. His legs are wobbly, but he rounds the bases and he comes back to the dugout, and Frank Robinson says, you can now call me Frank. That's my best Gil Hodges story.